welcome to another edition of MLB Pro Happy Hour. Today is Sunday, April 5th. We're about a week, a little over a week into the season, and we've had quite a bit happen already, from injuries to trades to brawls to hot starts, cold starts. We've had a little bit of everything so far this year. Some of you have sent in some questions or topics that you wanted covered. Brenton might be joining me here in 10 minutes, perhaps. This might be a shorter one tonight, but we'll see if anyone hops on here and if we get Brenton to discuss his trade. Let's take a quick look maybe at tonight's Sunday night baseball action, where we have the 8-1 Seattle Mariners taking on the Kansas City Royals. The Mariners have an undecided starting pitcher going tonight, while the Royals will be going with rookie Chris Rivers. While Seattle's hot start, I think, was expected by many, the 5-2 start by the Kansas City Royals, I'm going to go with, was less predictable, and very few saw coming, frankly, including those within Kansas City. So how has this happened, really? Well, it begins with the fact that the Kansas City pitching staff has been electric. The Royals have allowed the American League fewest 21 runs, only 4 homers, best again in the American League. Their bullpen ranks third with an ERA just over 2. Their starters have an ERA of a little over 5, or ranks 5th in the league at 3.5. Team batting average is 4th in the American League, but just taking a look at everything, a very solid start from Jason Neal in the rotation. Chris Rivers was fantastic in his first career start in the bigs. Jesus Torres has handled the back end of the bullpen just fine. Victor Blackstuff has been electric, striking out 13.5 batters per 9 innings. Similarly, Chad James in the bullpen, 5 2/3 innings, has yet to allow a run, striking out over 11 batters per 9. Looking at the lineup, John Ballard hitting over 500 in the leadoff spot. Jonathan Garcia, a slow start in the 3-hole, but has been followed by a red-hot Sergio Barreda in his first season in Kansas City. Barreda came over from Toronto in a trade in November for Cam Martin, Jeffrey Sherman in exchange for Drew Childs. It was the Drew Childs trade to Toronto. Barreda, though, 6 games, 22 at-bats, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, already hitting above 400, slugging over 900. Elsewhere in the lineup, a strong start from Brandon Short, who remains on the trade block and escaped injury concerns early in the year, hitting over 400, on-base percentage of 516 at-bats. Taking a look at the series so far, the Mariners got the best of the Royals on Thursday night, shutting them out 6-0, and then the Royals evened things up yesterday with a 3-1 win over Seattle. Scored 3 in the first, and that was enough to beat Justin Hooper, who went 8 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs, but the 1 homer he gave up was the difference. Tyrell Jenkins, effectively wild 3 2/3 innings, only allowed 1 run, gave up 4 hits, walked 5, but struck out 7. Through 102 pitches, only 54 strikes. But then the bullpen came in, James, Black, Torres, and shut things down in front of a little over 37,000 fans at Kauffman Stadium. A good start for Kansas City, and a chance to win a series tonight against Seattle. A winnable series coming up against Detroit before they hit the road for 4 late next week against Toronto. Elsewhere in the league, just quickly, division by division, the Blue Jays again expected 7-2 start, but the Yankees, a very strong 6-2 start for them. Baltimore 4-4, Tampa Bay 3-5, and the Red Sox have stumbled to 3-6 after giving Toronto some troubles in their opening series. The just talked about Kansas City Royals sit atop of the Central right now at 5-2, with the Indians a game back at 5-4. The Tigers are playing 500 ball through 8 games at 4-4. The Twins have won 2 in a row to climb back to 4-5. and the White Sox currently rounding out the American League Central at 2-6. In the American League West, the Mariners, the best record in baseball, 8-1, are followed by the Houston Astros, who are 6-3. The Angels are 4-5, four back. The Angels and Astros split a doubleheader yesterday. And then to round out the American League West and the American League as a whole at the moment are the 2-7 Athletics and Rangers. The A's have lost 5 straight. And taking a look at things in Oakland, the concern before the year was the offense, and that concern has come true. The A's currently ranked 14th in batting average, 15th in on-base percentage, 14th in slugging percentage, 15th in OPS, 15th in runs scored, 15th in hits. They're not getting many runs, and that has been a problem for a team that currently ranks 4th in team ERA, has given up a mere 29 runs, but has they're struggling. Recent losses to the Twins in this series: 3-2 on Saturday, 2-1 on Thursday, a 2-1 loss Wednesday against Houston, another 1-run loss against Houston in their first game of that series, and a 1-0 home loss in the opening series against the Twins. So the Oakland A's pitching, it's been everything they expected. The offense, it's been a trouble spot so far this season. Over in the National League East, the Philadelphia Phillies, a hot 6-3 start. The Mets began the year 4-1. Scratch that; they've only lost 1 in a row, not 3 in a row. To trail the Phillies at 4-4, tied for second place at the moment with the Nationals at 4-4. The Braves 3-6 in their rebuild. Are they rebuilding? Are they not rebuilding? Let's trade for pieces. Let's potentially trade pieces away. Season that is going on in Atlanta. The Miami Marlins are an NL worst current 2-7. The Central is currently led by the Pittsburgh Pirates at 6-2. A strong start for Pittsburgh, followed closely by the Brewers at 5-3. And then a pair of disappointing starts in Cincinnati and St. Louis for both the NL Central favorites are a mere 3-5. And the Chicago Cubs are 2-6. The National League West is currently shared at the top between Colorado and Arizona, both 6-3. The Padres have had strong pitching start from their starters. They're 5-4. The Dodgers 4-4, and the Giants 3-5. One team that some of you asked me to discuss here. I think Brenton's waiting. Brenton, you're allowed in now. Let's see. Sorry about that. Let's see, give Brenton a second to connect as we talk about the surprising Arizona Diamondbacks. A 6-3 start, a team that I think some of us before the season were expecting good things from, but maybe a push middle of the pack, and then next year be a stronger appearance when the likes of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. make their full-time spots in the lineup. But when you look at things in Arizona, Scott Clark, Andrew Morales, a formidable 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation. Both have been fantastic early in the season. A middle of the rotation with Emilio Salazar and Jarrett Parker, a very competent middle of the rotation. And then the question marks entering the year was Shohei Ohtani, a disappointing rookie season and a season filled with injury, but he's gotten off to a hot start. Hey, Brenton, how are we doing in it today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Everything is going well here. Just talking Diamondbacks baseball. What have you had a chance to? Atlanta's played at Arizona to start the year. Yes.
Yeah, we got swept in 4 games in Arizona, so it was a nightmare trip out there. And if you read the NL West preview I put up earlier this year, I predicted actually that the Diamondbacks made the playoffs. So I'm glad to see they're off to a hot start.
It looked like that series was an up and down close series where both bullpens kind of were problems in the 9th inning. Correct?
Oh, it was ugly. Yeah, I mean, there was multiple. Javi Guerrero blew 2 games at the end. Arizona had a bunch of comeback wins, but the whole of it was they just hit the crap out of the ball the whole time.
They have Jeremy Scott, another fantastic start to the year, hitting .306, already slugged 4 homers. Joey Gallo has hit 2 homers, getting on base at a high clip. Daz Cameron showing power, albeit not getting on base. Ohtani, success on the mound and at the plate, hitting over 400 in limited action. Carroll Curtis off to a good start As a team, they're second in the NL in batting average, OPS, slugging, OPS, runs scored, hits, extra base hits, and home runs. So you pair a good start with the bats and formidable starting pitching, and the Arizona Diamondbacks are a team that have surprised some, not all, but some, and have gotten off to a terrific start. Elsewhere, the team they're tied with, the first team that I wanted to discuss injury-wise, a pair of injuries in the National League that I think have thrown things into a loop. First, Colorado with Ramon Zaragoza breaking a kneecap running the bases. His season is over. It's looking like they're playing Steve Winter at first base. An interesting choice, having limited experience at first base. I don't know how that's going to affect his defense and potentially his bat and the strong pitching Colorado traditionally has there. And then what? St. Louis lost Dave Smith for the year. I forget the injury. Dave Smith, a torn rotator cuff. His season's over. 3-5 start there. Which injury do you think might be a bigger deal for one of those two teams to overcome?
I mean, it's a bummer, right? Because you figure that the Rockies are the top team in the National League at the moment, and I don't think anything happened in this offseason changed that. And the Cardinals, as much as they underperformed last season, are still the class of the National League Central by a wide margin. You can say what you want about the Reds, right? So you take two championship contending teams in the National League, deal a huge blow to either the rotation, which Dave Smith is a massive, massive hit to that rotation. He was a Cy Young candidate this year for the National League. And take a guy like Zaragoza out of the Rockies lineup. I mean, neither one's great, right? They both really, really hurt if you're a National League sympathizer like myself, and I think like the majority of neutral fans out there are. But if you want to look at which hurts more overall, as much as it may feel weird to say a first baseman is going to be a bigger loss than an ace pitcher, I mean, the Rockies are the National League's hope. Like, they are the last great hope here for the National League to win a championship this year or next year. And to lose a bat like Zaragoza in the middle of that lineup with no obvious replacement either in the field or in the lineup, it's tough, right? So I see why they put Steve Winter in there, because putting Steve Winter allows you to put somebody like Jock Peterson off the bench maybe, into that lineup, or throw somebody like Tim Hampton as a more normal starter out there and let him get some run, as opposed to trying to force G-Man Choi as a first baseman backup, or go get somebody at AAA. So I think Zaragoza ends up being a pretty big hit, especially when you look at the hot start that the Padres have had. Can that hold on? It never does. They always stock art. And Arizona seeming to be off to the start that they're at. I think they are going to have more competition out west than the Cardinals are going to have in the Central. So, I hate to say it, but Zaragoza seems like the bigger loss here.
I tend to agree. The only thing I guess I would argue otherwise is the Cardinals. They're bringing back Zach Potter into the rotation this year after an injury-plagued season last year. So counting on big innings out of him could be a bit of a stretch. But then you look at the guys that could be on their way up. I think there's 3 or 4 names that I would keep an eye on as an outsider. Jerome Hill could be a young arm coming up. Cody Poteet, Chris Volstad is a veteran presence that has always had success. And Vance Worley, a pitcher who routinely was having success with the New York Mets the last 2 or 3 years, could be someone who comes up and solves things for St. Louis. But as your point is clear, the National League West is better than the National League Central, and losing Zaragoza long term, it shrinks the room for error in Colorado tremendously.
I think a bigger piece of this too, if you want to even dig it a little deeper, is that St. Louis, should they want to go replenish, should Jerome Hill not be the solution, which, by the way, I think he is. He's not by any means the Dave Smith replacement, but he's still a very talented former top prospect that hasn't really gotten off the ground yet. I think if he gets the shot, he might do it. But St. Louis has the pieces in that minor league system to go get somebody that may be a good, solid 2 or 1A, right? I don't think Colorado's got anything left in that system to go out and make a trade and pull somebody in. They're not getting a bat like Zaragoza unless they go get somebody on the cheap. But that's the thing, right? I think if let's say we get 2 months into this thing and both teams are in that first place position, the Cardinals are in a better spot to replenish than the Rockies are. And that's my last point about that. But that's just interesting. I think it's fascinating both of those happen in the National League to 2 of our top teams.
That you're spot on. The Cardinals with 3 top 100 prospects: Jeffrey Starks, Jesus Luzardo, and is that Randall Walker? Where Colorado has no top 100 prospects to trade for. Speaking of trades, there were three trades here the last few days, but with you here, let's start with the one that was made first. A reversal of last season's trade deadline trade. Tyler Pill last July was sent to the New York Yankees in exchange for several prospects. And then here we were, April 3rd, I believe it was. News broke across the wire that Tyler Pill was heading back to Atlanta in a trade that sent Young York Park, Angel Mata, and Juan Garcia from Atlanta to New York. And with Tyler Pill, Kyler Murray, Luis Almanzar, and Brian Karapetayan back to Atlanta. So break us down why that trade happened, how that trade came about. How just let's hear it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rhett and I have a long history of making trades together, as evidenced by the fact that Younger Pike has been traded literally 5 times back and forth between our teams. We traded him 4 times when he was running the Royals system, and now he's back over there. Tyler Pill's been traded back and forth twice. These are not the only players that Rhett and I have traded back and forth multiple times, but Pike is a wild example of it, right? This started with me reaching out to Rhett in the offseason, just kind of expressing some low-level interest in some of the guys he's had in the system, and then staying in contact with him as he was sort of uninvolved through the offseason. It started as a very small deal. He was looking at guys like Angel Mata and Jimmy Garcia, or Juan Garcia, excuse me, whatever the guy's name is, I can't remember. And I had that list that he had thrown out there. We were kind of working on something small until they ended up, he asked me just kind of out of the blue, hey, will you take Tyler Pill back? And Pill's a guy we liked in Atlanta. We always have. I know. Yeah, I'm being judged again. My kids are all on the front porch. I set up a TV and they're watching Frozen 2 for my neighbor's birthday, and they're having a blast. My wife just came through very disgusted with what I'm doing. But, Tyler Pill's a guy we let go because we sort of saw the writing on the wall, and we let everybody walk. We didn't really expect to resign Pill. Having the opportunity to bring an arm like him back into our rotation after having dealt some of the people away, put him right behind Trevor Bauer, more tired cadets in the back as well. I think Rhett looked at it as a salary dump because the Yankees are so high over the cap. I looked at it as, hey, look, I'm grabbing a piece that should this team contend for whatever reason. Hill has done nothing but succeed in Atlanta. Martar Get's done nothing but succeed in Atlanta. Trevor Bauer has succeeded in Atlanta. Like my whole rotation, 1 through 5 now, is people that have shown success in Atlanta. So, I would able to get him on board with some, Murray and Almanzar, they're interesting prospects. They might not turn into anything, but I like their names. I like the way they can move and play defense. And Karapetayan, or however the heck you say that name, is another bullpen piece that I'm trying to add. Look through my system. I'm looking to add high stuff, good movement guys to the pen in that low 20s range, so I can finally build a bullpen. And getting an arm like Pill on top of it was just sort of a nice piece. So, worst case scenario, we fall apart. Pill's a trade piece at the deadline. Best case scenario, we're kind of competing, and Pill slides into that 3-4 slot like he was a couple of years ago when we actually had a World Series competing team. So I saw it as a win-win for us.
117 starts in Atlanta in just over 4.5 years, and a WAR of over 13. Career record in Atlanta, 42-27, an ERA just over 3.25. The only concern, I guess, with him from an outsider's perspective is his stamina. A guy that maybe can't give you 7 or 8 innings, but for 5 innings, he has electric stuff.
Yeah, and that's what he was for us for years. Honestly, back then we had a better bullpen, so it was a little bit easier for him to pull some wins in. We were kind of a scrap heap pen at the moment, and if some of these guys work out and I can bring some of these younger guys up, maybe we can repeat that. But that's a spot-on assessment, right? He's going to struggle in 6 and 7 innings. And the way my team's constructed right now, I can't get from 5 to 9 with a win. So, who knows? Maybe he ends up being a trade piece. Maybe he doesn't. But I was happy to see him back in a Braves uniform for the moment.
The second trade to come across the wire this week came courtesy of the Red Sox and the White Sox in a trade of Arturo Cruz, a player that the Chicago front office had been shopping and trying to move seemingly for a couple weeks there. Finally got a buyer in the Red Sox. Do you see Arturo Cruz being able to figure out the power he possesses and being able to consistently play at the big league level, or is he a piece that really is overvalued, if you will?
Yeah, he's actually another former Atlanta Braves farmhand, like many of these people are. But Cruz is one of those guys that, like, you watch him in BP, you watch him wherever the hell else he's hitting, and the dude can hit the ball a mile and a half. but he swings at everything. He's got no eye. He's not watching. He's not taking walks. He just swings at literally everything. So he just strike out too much. And in Boston, the great equalizer, or the great unequalizer, maybe a better way to say that, is that wall out in left field. Like, does that help the way he swings? Do people pitch to him differently because he's got a short porch? And hell, a short right field porch, honestly, if you think about it. It remain to be seen. Boston and New York are those two places where you go. I mean, you can throw Colorado, you can throw Texas into these places where, like, the ball just travels different off your bat. So it'll be interesting to see if a guy like him, who can make contact, who can hit the shit out of the ball when he makes contact with it, but misses a ton, has a different result in a place where the field plays such a big factor into the bat, into the game. So I hate to rule anybody out going to a place like that, but for me, Arturo Cruz is never going to be a guy who's going to hit above 250. He's never going to hit more than 15 home runs, because he's just not going to get the opportunities to strike out too much over the course of the season, and nobody's going to give him a regular starting role. So I like that Hodges is able to dump a guy that maybe he gave a shot to and it wasn't working out, and I like that Brett's taking a chance, because the Sox have seen some decent success at the start of the season. Why not take a chance on somebody like him at a relatively low cost, should he work out?
Low cost, low salary base. A player, though, in the minors at A-ball hit under 300 in 157 games, struck out 166 times, so more than once a game. Double-A, 390 career games, only hit 260 with 411 strikeouts in 390 games. Then things really fell apart at Triple-A, 72 Triple-A games and 293 at-bats, struck out 92 times, a career 222 hitter. And now limited major league action, 51 games, only 149 at-bats, but he struck out 61 times and hit only 161. If you can put the ball put the ball in play, it's going far, as you pointed out. It'll be interesting. Just as it'll be interesting, I think, in this most recent trade that broke today, this afternoon, the Mariners, a team that have a full bullpen, a bullpen that has gotten off to a good start, but traded a competent piece the last couple of years in Michael Brady to the New York Yankees in exchange for Jim Lawrence and Enrique Guerra. Just off the topic, I've also heard the ACLU is filing complaints with MLB Pro over the fact that Enrique Guerra is just 16 and a half years old. So, Justin Kaiser, I don't exactly know what you're doing with 16 and a half year olds playing minor league baseball, but you have been informed that the league office has been told there are concerns there with outside presence. But a move that I think the Yankees again get better kind of contradicts their move of Tyler Pill, sending a little mixed signals in New York. But like Atlanta with Pill, a piece that potentially the Yankees, if this hot 6-2 start doesn't last, a piece that they could flip down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem, if you go back to Pill, the problem with Pill is he was looked at as an ace maybe by the Yankees organization, and when he wasn't performing like that, although he had a great start, $1 million just became.
Did I lose you? I think we lost Brenton there. We'll give him a minute to connect back.
Honestly, even while they were making the trade for Armando Cabanas last year and Manny Machado, it's one of those things where, like, Kaiser is consistently 1 foot in, 1 foot out. As much as he seems to be in, and he always makes the moves that seem like they're in, this seems like a move that, he's got a full pen, he's got a full MLB roster. I get it, but he's one of those guys that gets the taste of acquiring prospects sometimes, and you never know where the Mariners are going to go. So I like the move from the Yankees' perspective. I don't hate it from the Mariners either. Hang on, I'm being asked to mute. But that's my take on that trade.
Well, Brenton mutes things. We'll take a look here elsewhere. Another topic that was sent my way was we had our first brawl and suspension of the year. It didn't take long for the Texas Rangers and the Los Angeles Angels to get heated in the ninth inning of a game the other day. Who was it? It was, taking a look at Texas, it was Addison Reed beating Mazutaro Oyashi of the Angels in a full-fledged ninth inning brawl that saw both given short suspensions. I believe Reed 5 or 6 games, Oyashi 2 or 3 games. Things are heated in the American League. A rivalry we've seen in the past with Tampa Bay and the Angels, now Texas and the Angels. We have the Indians and the Twins constantly going at it. Now the White Sox and the Indians and the Twins. We have brought the Yankees and the Red Sox and their fierce rivalry past the Yankees and the Blue Jays. We've seen it all in the American League this year. What else has caught your eye early in the season? Anything surprise you tremendously to start the year?
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit there, but I think what you're asking is anything surprised me to start the season?
Exactly.
Is that the question you asked?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure. I mean, I think the White Sox stumbling out of the gate again is really kind of a bummer to see. I like that Hodges is not panicking to this point, but the Chicago is one of those teams that like continually seems to build a really, really strong core group and then just struggle for whatever reason, whether it's the park, whether it's the management. I honestly can't figure it out, but they're again stumbling out of the gates, which is kind of an interesting piece to see. Now, hopefully Hodges will hold tight. We all believe that team's got talent. It'd be hopefully they'll be able to fruition here. The A's struggling as much as they have, honestly, is a bit confusing. The Mariners have come out just freaking hot, obviously. The Angels, nobody gives a shit about the Angels. It could be 500 and come out and win the division, so nobody's concerned there. But the A's and the Rangers lose that division. Obviously, I thought it would be the Rangers. I thought the A's would play a little better baseball than they are, but they're definitely behind. Sam, apologies to you, man, but like I am comforted to see that my prediction of the Dodgers struggling a little bit this year is coming to fruition. So that is something I'm not surprised by, I guess. I mean, we're early, right? So some of these predictions are a little bit wild. The Phillies being as good as they are is also very surprising. So there's definitely some fun storylines. 8, 9 games into the season at this point. But I remember, like, I go back to some of the stuff I've written in the past. There was 2 years ago where I wrote this very like a point, sentence for sentence breakdown of the Padres. I think it was in 2018 that they would be the team in the National League West. They came out and started 9-0, 10-0, and I started jumping through the roof like I predicted the next lottery pick, and they ended up falling off and finishing 4th out of 5 in that division or something. So it's a little tough to get too excited about anything at this point. It's good to see that no GM in the league has panicked this early and traded away a superstar to blow the whole thing up. Everybody seems to be keeping a level head, whether that's a side effect of everybody being quarantined to their house and having more time to tinker around with their lineups or not. I don't know. I guess we'll see what that does to everyone in about a month when we're all still doing this. But I don't know, man. There's not a whole hell of a lot that's made me sit back and not believe it. Maybe the Pittsburgh Pirates off to the kind of start they're off to. That's a little bit surprising. That team is dog shit. The fact that they are, not literally winless at this point is rather surprising. But for the most part, you just kind of got to look at the season. The fact that I am negative 24 in run differential, god damn, that's bad. So maybe there is looking at some statistics. The Atlanta Braves are literally dead last in run differential. That is very bad.
Minus 24 after 8 or so games is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I'm getting the crap beaten out of me a couple different times this year, so it's not great. But yeah, I mean, and we're looking at some things. I think we'll have a better picture of what's surprising, what's going to stick, what's not. But at this point, you get to laugh at things like the Braves being negative 23 in run differential, and the Pirates being in first place in the Central, and all these other things, which is it's fun, but it's horrifying.
I'll just close with this. I appreciate you joining me, but the player that I want to highlight here that I know has gotten credit from his own city, and that's Mickey Wiswall out in Detroit. Wiswall was a player that co-general managers Jim and Josh were high on to start the year, and I think many were laughing at them, thinking, well, this career minor leaguer, what is he going to do at 31 and a half years old? Here he is hitting the hell out of the ball.
Yep.
Four homers, hitting over 330, slugging 750. And the Detroit Tigers are playing good baseball. So who's laughing now? It's clearly Jim and Josh at the rest of us for thinking Mickey Wiswall could not play, because Mickey Wiswall sure can play at the big league level.
Yeah, he's off to a great start. He's got to be traded at some point, you figure, right? Because there's no still be in his prime or hitting this way when the Tigers are ready to compete. But it's fun to watch him hit. It's fun to watch somebody take a chance on an older guy and have it work out. And, hopefully gets traded to a contender at some point. Tigers
The
keep
guy,
doing a
the
great
guy, I
job.
think the guy that's going to be interesting is Joey Votto.
Well, there's that
A
too.
player that the Tigers nearly dealt last trade deadline, a player that I think they're willing to eat a decent chunk of that salary to get rid of it. A piece that he can still help teams in the American League win. They're limited because it's got to be a winner and it's got to be a team that has a DH spot, and that's going to shrink the number of teams that are going to be available. But Joey Votto can help a team win a World Series.
Yeah, no argument here.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me. We'll be back this week with more to discuss, more topics, more trades, more storylines, more to come. Go enjoy Frozen with the family, and we'll talk to you here in a couple days.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Thanks.